All right. Welcome to Undeniable, a new podcast and limited series from Words Normalize Behavior, where we're able to spotlight some of the brilliant leaders that we work with, along with leaders in the movement whose excellence and brilliance is undeniable. One of our first guests for this limited series is Portia Allen Kyle, the Interim Executive Director for Color of Change, who is a dynamic civil rights attorney, a Roosevelt Fellow, and someone who is constantly doing the work to meet the moment. Welcome to Undeniable, Portia.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yes, indeed. So, it's CBC week. We're out at the CBCF annual legislative conference. And so, first, how are you feeling about this week?
I think it's important to come to events like this, to host events like this that are really rooted in joy, rooted in purpose. Because this is going to be a long fight we're in at the moment and really need to have the spaces to rejuvenate, to come together, to build, to strategize. And this is one of those spaces.
Absolutely. And, Color of Change has been spearheading and leading racial justice work for years. But it's oftentimes rapid response work and mobilizing folks digitally, but there's also the battle of making long-term systemic change. Can you talk to me a little bit about how do you balance both of those and responding in the moment, but still building that dynamic systemic infrastructure for structural change?
Yeah, so I think it all boils down to having a very clear vision and purpose for what we're doing here, right? Like part of what we say, and some of our, you'll see some of our merch and taglines, until justice is real. And so a recognition that in the ongoing journey, there is a state that we're looking to achieve where justice is the default state of being, where that is characterized by love, where Black people can thrive, where families can excel, where people can get ahead, where we're not constantly on the defense, under attack, where we are not, always fighting, where we can finally just be and just relax. And I think that vision is what helps guide and strategize around both the work in the now, the rapid response. There's a lot of harm that's happening in the moment and needing to make sure that we are strategically, pushing back and pulling various levers of power to move the needle and make sure that we stay steady on the path towards that vision that we're trying to work towards. And sometimes the hard decisions, need to be made. Strategic sacrifice more and more is becoming the name of the game. And by that, I mean really being judicious around how we are using energy. And that's the energy of our staff, the energy of ourselves, the energy of our members, to make sure that we are filling people's cups as much as we are asking them to pour into the moment and into the movement, and knowing that we're not going to be able to stop all things, but perhaps the defense that we're playing allows us to play a better offense long term.
Absolutely. And I love that you talk about playing offense too, because when it comes to building narrative power and setting the narrative, a big thing is playing offense. And so, you're someone that has a very powerful voice. You have a powerful platform and you represent millions of members around the world or around the nation. But I'm sure y'all have some global reach too of folks who are inspired by y'all's work. And so, talk to me just about the power of your voice and why you feel it's important to speak up right now.
I think it's important for everybody to speak up in the moment, to say the things. Democracy dies in darkness, and not just this abstract concept, but the ability for folks to engage and to express the things that they believe, the ability to say Black is beautiful and stand on business and mean that, to say to talk about building collective Black political power, to talk about building strong Black communities. The ability to say Black, right, is why it's important to continue fighting. And it's harder when there is a collective and a groundswell of action with a lot of folks standing behind you, to number one, be ignored, but number two, to be completely drowned out and censored. And right now we are in a state where there are folks looking to censor us. There are folks who do not want us speaking truth to power. There are folks who do not want us. And when I say folks, I mean government, I mean this administration, I mean the neo-segregationists and their corporate enablers that we have been fighting, back against. But there are a plethora of folks, who make it their business to ensure that we cannot speak, that we feel disempowered, to make sure that we feel hopeless. And our job is to, remind them absolutely not, and stand firm, bring our folks with us to demonstrate our power. And that, includes mobilizing our members, that includes those who have the honor of serving in leadership at this moment, that includes, like all of you who are listening, in the ways in which you can speak, to please speak, to demonstrate that no one person here is alone.
Absolutely. And I think a lot about, like, we talk about the neo-segregationist agenda all the time and how all of these things really interconnect, and how whether it's attacking our culture, whether it's attacking our economic power, whether it's attacking our opportunity to tell our stories and tell our history. And so I want you to put the pieces together a little bit about the neo-segregationist agenda, and like why we need to watch for it and call it that and call it what it is.
Yeah. So the neo segregationist agenda is what we have termed the overarching goals of, what are somewhat in Project 2025, but in many ways it's important to recognize what was put forth in Project 2025 was an agenda after maybe considered phase two, so to speak. I think, phase one of the modern era is the Southern strategy in response to the Civil Rights Act, and, these attempts to suppress and fight back and chip away at civil rights progress and infrastructure over the past 50 years. And so now that they have, Project 2025 was, put forward at a point where they have taken over the bench. They have, now in this administration, undermined institutions. They have been, attacking free speech, attacking institutions of education and college campuses, and the training grounds where we, have training grounds in places that have historically been places of dissent amongst college students, where, college students have protested and stood up for, civil rights and for beliefs. They have attacked our culture in this attempt to remake America and erase Black people from it, to send us back to a time of legal principles and, law that is very much the cornerstone of white male rule, probably post Reconstruction, around when Plessy was first passed. And so all of these simultaneous attacks, like they all go together to put forward an agenda that is about returning white men, and at this point, very clearly, white men who have zero credentials, zero bona fides, who are whose only politic is resentment, whose only whose only objective is cruelty, whose only strategy is chaos, to come and take over and dismantle our democracy piece by piece, until it is no longer recognizable. And it is firm in our belief that one of the pathways they see to doing that is to crack Black political power. And that is where we are fighting back on all fronts against this agenda.
Absolutely. And so I have one last question for you. So this series and show is called Undeniable because we are undeniable in our excellence. We are undeniable in our power. And so for you, what makes your excellence undeniable?
I think no one person exists in a vacuum. Everything to the family and community that raised me, the people like yourself that, support and have, been such strong allies in this work, and, a strong resource friend and supporter to, the staff of our organizations. Like, Color of Change would be nowhere without the dedicated people who, come to work every day to fight on behalf of Black people and Black communities until justice is real. And all of that, I think, is, all, in addition to, all thanks be to God, but like all of that, I think, is to the credit of where we are, where I am today.
Absolutely. Portia, thank you so much for joining us. We already know your brilliance and excellence is undeniable, and I get to witness that working with you each and every day. But thank you for being a part of this conversation and continuing to spearhead and lead this work.
Yes, thank you for having me, and congratulations on the podcast.
Thank you.